check. 1, 2.
Check.
Man, well, you think the second take would be better than the first take, right? I mean, hey guys, we're back. Another episode of the Turf Nerds podcast. So we've been having technical difficulties with our mics, so please bear with us as we try to figure this out. This will take some time, but we got a special guest today.
Yeah. We've been looking forward to this guest for a little bit because I think he's got a good story to tell, and I think he's going to be inspirational to some of our listeners and viewers. Why don't you introduce him, Evan?
Guys, this is my Uncle Greg. So this would be my mom's sister's husband. But Greg, why don't you tell us this little funny story that you were telling us tonight about my grandfather not knowing what a podcast was.
Yeah, I was trying to explain the podcast to him and what it was, and he just wasn't getting it. And I was trying to pull up different examples of things that he would maybe see, like a YouTube, for example, and tried to explain to him. I said, well, okay, so you've watched YouTube stuff, right? He says, yeah. I said, well, what they're trying to do with the podcast is just similar to kind of similar to what you're doing. You're trying to get an audience, and you're trying to get subscribers, and you're trying to get people to listen to you. So when you're watching those things on YouTube, you're, in a sense, kind of watching a podcast, thinking that's the easiest way to explain it to him. He goes, oh, okay. I never watch YouTube. And okay, so do you remember Joe Rogan? There was an issue. He's got 11 million subscribers, making $200 million doing his podcasts.
Has he even heard of Joe Rogan before, you think?
No, I don't. Yeah, he never heard of Joe Rogan, but I tried to use the example of the two doctors that were the anti-COVID doctors. They weren't anti-vaccine, they just didn't like the vaccine.
Yeah.
And
Robert Malone and then some other guy. It's like Peter McCullough. I think it was like
Peter McCullough?
Some sort of McCullough guy, yeah.
Yeah. Off the top of my head. But I said, well, you remember hearing those two stories about those guys, right? Yeah. I said, well, that was on Joe Rogan. Well, I don't know who Joe Rogan is. Well, it doesn't matter.
What do you do, right? So, my grandpa's 86. He's a great man, very successful there in his life. So my uncle was over there seeing them. He's an avid golfer, but I applaud Greg for being patient, trying to explain what podcasting is. But it's great to have you here on the show, though, Greg.
No, thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on here. Looking forward to you guys.
And so we want to get right into your story. So you started your lawn care business later in life. You were in the corporate world for quite some time, right?
Yeah, I was in the corporate world for about 35 years and just got to the point where I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't like working for people. I didn't like people. I didn't like having to go through all the rigmarole, for lack of a better word, of dealing with management. Okay. And finally got to the point where I just decided I was done with it. Had some issues and just said, no, I'm done. And had an opportunity to go to work with Evan in between. A couple
years ago.
A few years, yeah, about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And wound up working with Evan. And I used to work at a country club on the grounds crew when I was in college.
Oh, okay.
And did 2 years on a country club. And so that's where I learned to cut. And that was one of the things that I tell my prospective clients that, hey, I used to work at this country club. And that's where I learned to cut. I'm sorry?
35 years ago.
Just don't tell them that part.
Hey, it's experience. But no, you were debating, you left the corporate world and you were basically kind of sifting through things. And this is 3 years ago. And the fall, I'm like, great. Greg wants to work with me during fall cleanups. This is going to be pretty good because he's in for a leafy treat right there. So that's really the best time to come in. So
yeah, it was tough work. It was hard. And I remember that first day just being absolutely exhausted. I remember me saying, man, my arms are just killing me. And trying to figure out, because I was carrying, actually I was cutting with you a little bit. When we first started, we were doing some,
first started because you were debating about getting into the biz. So I'm like, okay, you'll get with me the tail end of like October and then November. That's what things ramped up. And the first couple of days, I'm like, he's in shape. I don't know. It's like, I was praying. I'm like, Lord, I hope hope he can do this. Well, you proved me totally wrong, and you're doing very well. So
I was a distance runner, so I knew how to pace myself.
So after that time working with Evan, you decided I'm going to pursue this full time.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do to start out? How did you get going? That first season. What equipment, customer generation. Talk to us about that.
First season, I borrowed one of Evan's walk behinds, 36-inch walk behind. Started out with that.
Cadet, it's a solid machine. It was a commercial machine too. Now I think my buddies have it. They're also in the lawn care business. Greg knows of them. Let's just say they do good work, but they just beat their stuff to tar at times, right? I mean,
they use it well.
Yeah, use it very. They use it very well. So
it gets its use. But I started with Evan. Let me borrow his 36-inch, and I bought a used trailer. Found a used trailer that was in decent shape, so I went out and got that. I hooked it up to the back of my van.
Okay.
That already had a trailer hitch on it. So my first couple weeks were pulling my 36-inch borrowed walk behind with the trailer that I bought. So I technically started for about $1,200 because I had the trailer and I had to buy a trimmer and an edger.
Okay.
And those were about $300 a piece or so. And so I technically started for about $1,200, started the business. After probably about a month or so, Evan's mower went down, so I had to go out and buy a 48-inch. I bought a used one and then I paid $2,000 for that. And then had some
it's fair enough. I mean, there's some if the machine wasn't heavily used, then you're good. So
right. But that was one of the ones that was on lease program with
that's not bad, yeah.
With one of the local vendors, as they say.
Okay.
And so we knew that one was well taken care of because it was one of those ones that it would get serviced every month, I believe. And so I knew it was going to be in decent shape and it was going to last me. So I got into that and then wound up buying a truck. And I bought a used truck for $3,000 with 120,000 miles on it.
Good truck though. Hey, you're using that truck today too. So
I'm still using it. It's 3 years later. I'm still using it, and it's only got 142,000 on it. So
it's not bad at all.
No, when you're mowing, you don't use your truck a whole lot in the winter. So and you're only driving. You want to keep your area tight. So the furthest I drive is 17 minutes. That's my furthest account.
Okay.
And then I work my way back from there. So, so that's still low mileage. So I had a truck for $3,000, the trailer for $600, the mower for $2,000.
Okay.
So I was in and then the other stuff. So I was in at about $6,000.
And how did you go about customer acquisition that first season? How did you build up your client base?
First season, I was talking to Evan a lot, but we talked about how he did it with flyers. We just went around.
Basically flyers and word of mouth though too. And Greg could hustle, and it's fun figuring out where to put flyers on mailboxes, right?
Yeah. Well, it's and if you get it on the flag just right, it'll stay there. Hopefully.
Oh yeah, the wind takes them away, but that's free advertisement inside trees, inside parts of your houses and lawns. So when the wind takes them away, could be a good thing though too. It could be a wake up. Hey, I got 7 flyers here in my yard. This Greg Durbin guy might give him a call.
It could be pretty important. And so I just started passing out flyers. I put them on mailboxes, and I went out and did. It was the second year I did door hangers. Never got anywhere with the door hangers, surprisingly. It was always the flyers.
Hit or miss, yeah.
So you getting some phone calls off of the flyers, and what would you tell the people?
What I would do is go out and see them, take a look at the lawn, and I just told them about myself. Look, I'm a solo guy. I'm not going to be. I'm not the crew of 3 different crews that come out to see your lawn. I'm going to treat your lawn like mine, and that's going to be important because I want you to know. And I use the example of having my boys cut my lawn a few years prior.
Yeah.
I was having my boys cut my lawn, and one day I was out walking around my lawn, and I went, "The heck is this? This is broken," and nobody's told me. And so I tell people, I said, look, when you have somebody cutting your lawn, while you're not neglecting it, you just kind of forget about it. And because that guy's taking care of your lawn. So I said, I'm going to tell you if you got a broken sprinkler head, if you're overwatering or underwatering in spots, that's going to be important because if you've got the crew of 3 different crews coming out to your house, one week one guy sees a broken sprinkler, the next week the guy sees a broken sprinkler, and the third week the guy sees a broken sprinkler. 3 different guys, they all thought somebody else told them, you have a broken sprinkler for 3 weeks and you never knew about it. So I've told half easily half of my clients every year, I'm telling them something that they need to take a look at in their lawn. Hey, sprinkler's broken here. I found in somebody's lawn one day, I was looking at their lawn. They responded to my flyer, and they had the, as I was walking out, I was getting ready to leave. I happened to just catch the right angle under their driveway. I said, you've got a problem here. And they said, what? I said, you have no dirt under your driveway. And I stuck my hand under it, and I could only get my arm so far because it was only so long. And I said, get me a rod or something. And they handed me this rod, and I stuck this rod 3 feet under their driveway. There was no dirt under their cement for 3 feet, 4 inches of space. And I said, you're going to have a problem here. You wouldn't believe how grateful they were that I noticed that. So they knew when I told them, hey, I'm looking out for your lawn. Yeah. I was looking out for them.
Likewise, yeah. I mean, I even look out for the well-being of clients though too. So it's like I've got some for some clients who've been basically like 100 years old. I'm like, hey, I'm not just the lawn guy. I'm checking out every aspect here of the house because, I mean, we mow in generally safe areas, but stuff can happen where it's like you got to look out, and that's really cool. You looked at their driveway and were able to do that. So
and the homeowner appreciates that. You know, they definitely know that you're looking out for their best interest, and you're not there just to quickly cut and move on. Mm-hmm. You know, you actually, if you see something, you're going to say something and let them know where you see a potential problem or where they can make things better for themselves.
Yeah, they still thank me. And they're still thanking me for that driveway, noticing the driveway.
Like random Christmas cards and text, hey, Greg, thanks.
So that first season, as you're building up the customer base, were you having to like charge at a lower rate? How did that go? Because you're kind of trying to prove yourself and build up that customer base. So how did you go about setting the price for clients?
What I did was I was just trying to get the business. Yeah. So you got to get what you can. And in that first year, especially,
I know that,
yeah, you take what you can, as long as it's not going to be too cheap. If you got the guy that starts negotiating with you, honestly, walk away from the negotiator, and because he's going to do.
I applaud you for
that too. And it's fun. I haven't had the opportunity yet, but if somebody says, well, we're negotiating here, I say, I've already negotiated.
That's actually pretty funny.
We're negotiating? I already told you.
Yes, I've already done my negotiation, and
it's the art of the deal, right?
Yeah, but I've decided that if anybody's going to try and negotiate with me, I'm walking away because it's going to be a problem. And quite honestly, that guy was a problem all season, and I don't cut his lawn anymore. And so, but I was trying to take what I could, and just to get started, just so I could get a base. And but it's important because the flyers that I passed out my first year, 17 of the lawns, and I remember it, there were 17 of the lawns that I was talking to that they said, we don't like our current our current lawn company, and we need to switch because they're basically tearing up my lawn.
Yep.
And so they're getting ruts. They're driving around too fast because they're trying to get to the next job. They're trying to get to the next job because they're under pressure. To get as many cut as possible.
Guys, they definitely are. And as you said earlier, Greg, it's not even the same crews sometimes. Like you have 3 different crews come through. They don't even know it's like a sprinkler head. It's like we know when we can drive fast and when we got to go slower on certain, berms and undulations, rutty areas, drier areas, hilly areas, just anything like that.
Right. And I've noticed that there's times where I've made tracks in the lawn, but I remember that, and the next time I go back, I try and avoid that spot, or I trim further out so I make sure I don't hit that spot with my tire again. And sometimes it's just, like you were saying, that's the nature of that lawn. You've got to pull back on your trimming so you don't drive on that spot because you might wind up tearing it up regardless.
Was there like a floor for the pricing for that first year? The lowest that you would take?
The lowest I was going was 25, and which
that's fine there.
Which is cheap.
The first years, but then now with the whole way the economy goes and Bidenomics, we have new minimums now, right?
Yeah, my new minimum this year was $35, and now if anybody calls me up, we're middle of July. If anybody calls me now, and I've got a couple of spots that I could probably go with, but my new minimum is $40.
Okay.
And I've just decided
you have to.
Yeah, you have to, and at $5 a gallon. And we're putting we're putting plus in our mowers.
Plus in, yep.
and we're putting plus in. So it's not, when people say, well, it's only $4.50 a gallon. No, it's $5 for us because we're putting in plus. So we're spending a little bit more money on our gas than we want to right now. So you gotta be able to get yourself enough money to be able to cover yourself.
So that first season, how many clients were you able to build up starting out, to get you going?
First year I had 35 accounts, which was pretty good, I thought, for just starting out. But it was really just trying to get to know the clients and just taking care of them, doing the best I could. I was doing other stuff in the meantime. I was delivering pizzas in that summer too, and I was doing a lot of other stuff just to make sure they still had money flowing in. But that first year I had 35. The second year I had 60. This year I have, I think I have 64 right now, and I mow Monday to Thursday.
In that jump from 35 to 60, was that primarily word of mouth, or people actually seeing you cutting their neighbors and coming over and saying, hey, I need you to come look at my lawn. I don't like my current guy, or things like that?
A lot of it was people seeing me, and Devin and I talked about this at one point. He says, you're going to start mowing and people are going to come and ask you.
If you stay in a place long enough, I've told people, I've mowed in some neighborhoods 12 years. If you just stay there and exist and mow long enough, wave at people that walk by, people move away, people die, people actually watch you more than you think, and you'll get neighbors. Like, they'll be like, I've been watching you mow for years, and I really like how you do it, so I fired my lawn service, and I went with you. So Greg was you're obviously doing some good work, so they came over to you.
Right. And then I had, just this year, I had one lawn I was cutting. Lady stopped me and says, hey, are you taking on any new clients? I said, where are you at? And she said, well, I'm right around the corner. I said, let me go take a look. Let me finish here, and I'll be over there in a little bit. And went over and quoted her, and she said, okay, let's go ahead. And while I was cutting her lawn the next week, the neighbor across the street from her came over and said, can you give me a quote? So now I'm cutting 2 lawns right across the street from each other. And in that neighborhood, I was cutting, in that spot, I was cutting 2 lawns. Now I'm cutting 4.
Okay. And that you've talked a lot about route density, Evan. So I think Greg's starting to capitalize on that.
You want to, because we primarily, Greg, we primarily mow. 90% of what we do is mowing, and you can make a good, actual, respectable living off of straight mowing with some side hedge trimming and other mulch and random jobs. But the key there for anyone is route density, and he mows lawns that are a tad bigger than mine. You have a great minimum price, and for your area, you are very dense for your area and like where you're going.
Yeah. No, I've tried to keep it as dense as possible, and then working with the clients, it just depends on what you have. I might have to, depending on next year, if I start picking up a couple other clients, I might start having to let some of those single stops go. Okay. Just because those single stops take time.
Yeah. You'll get it to where you have a 2-stop minimum, then a 3-stop minimum, then a 4. It's just, you have to though, because some of the single stops, unless they're worth a whole bunch of money, it just takes time. So
right. But it just depends on what you're going to work with. And but you get some really nice people. I've got some really nice clients I work with. I enjoy them and spending some time with them. I had a 90-year-old guy the other day. He walks out and hands me a bottle of water. And it's so nice. But he wanted to talk. And the nice part is because
we can talk. Yeah. I know that you can talk, and I can probably talk too much. So I'm glad that doing this podcast, Ben puts the Titanic back on the. Well, actually, no,
that's
the Titanic.
We don't want the Titanic.
Anyways, yeah,
it's not so good.
It's lawn care family though.
It didn't end up so well.
And lawn care family and lawn care relationship though is super important though too. Yeah. So
what kind of services are you doing other than just the lawns? You're doing a little bit more than that, and there's some things you won't do, right?
I'll do the I'll trim hedges, and I'll mulch. Those are nice jobs to be able to pick up. The weeding I'll do, but I don't really like to. I've got 2 clients that I weed for, and weeding's just really time consuming, and I just don't know if they're always happy. Okay. And just because you're going to miss weeds, and they can get upset with you for missing a weed.
Or you pull a flower. Well, not really that, but I've whipped down flowers before. I'm like, if you have it right next to a weed, sorry, they're both going. Type of thing.
Well, we're going to talk in a couple of weeks to a young guy that he focuses on the weeding side. He's actually gotten a lot of referrals from lawn care people like yourself. So it's a guy who started his business while he was in high school, and they're being fairly successful already. So I think that'll be an interesting story.
We're going to be getting him on here in a couple weeks, but it's a great dichotomy from a wiser person in years and the younger kid.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hang up just with the younger guys too. And you built this 3 years ago from literally ground zero type of thing. Yeah. So,
but those guys are important to get to know. Like Evan knows this guy, and I've got a guy that he was weeding at one of my clients. And I just stopped and talked because I was supposed to mow my lawn that day, and he was there weeding. And so we just started talking. He says, look, I'll get out of your way, which is a nice thing because you get a lot of guys that they just get out of your way. We work together.
Yeah.
But
name of the game.
Yeah. But I talked to this guy and grabbed his card, and I've given his name out to a few other people just because that's what he does. He does the gardening and takes care of people for that.
It's a different type of work. It's just, as you say, I mean, I can bulk weed, but some people like it detailed. I'm like, that ain't me. So
well, it sounds like it's really good in this business to network and know some of these people that have different specialties, and then you guys kind of you're referring them, they're referring you, and you have a good relationship that way.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just met a lady today in my neighborhood, and she just moved in. She wanted some tree service done, and I said, "There's some I can do," and then she started pointing out some other stuff, and I said, "Yeah, that's not my wheelhouse." Yeah. And I just said, look, I got a guy I can refer to for that because it's a bigger job than I would take on. And my thing is I cut Monday to Thursday, and I've got a rain day.
Yeah, the margin and room for error is important, especially during the spring. Oh, man, when the spring rush comes, good luck trying to keep up mowing.
Right. And then I do on Fridays and Saturday mornings are generally for side jobs, for trimming hedges, for doing some other stuff. But I've also told people, look, if it's too big of a job, it's going to take me more than a day and a half, I'm not going to take it because you're just going to get mad at me if I have to come back the following weekend because the job wasn't done. I don't want you being mad at me. I don't mow around pools either.
I learned to pull back away from mowing around some pools. People get too picky with that. You shoot grass everywhere, they get upset.
Yeah,
and I think you were telling us before when you were building up the business. Maybe it was the second year or so that you had somebody that another lawn care guy that was trying to sell you some lawns, and you worked out a deal to take on some of his lawns. Yeah,
he was thinking of getting out of the business when I was just getting into it, and I had seen that he had gone on BizQuest, and he had his lawn company up for sale. And I reached out to him, and then they decided not to sell. Well, they still had my number. They reached back out to me and said, look, I'm just too busy. This guy's got 100 lawns, and he's in my area as well. He's a really busy guy. And he just reached out to me and said, look, I want to sell you 10 accounts. Here's the amount. And I looked at it and I said, I can't swing that. I'm just getting started. I just don't have the money for that. And he called me back a couple weeks later and said, look, I pre-bill. So I've already cut the lawn twice. I'll get paid for the rest of the month for these lawns. You take them over for me. You cut them the 3 times the rest of the month, and then the lawns are yours. So it cost me nothing to get 10 additional lawns. And all it did was cost me time. And then the funny part is about 2 weeks later, he called me back up and says, here, Greg, here's 6 more accounts. And
it's crazy how things work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah, and I still have 15 of those accounts. Okay. One of them passed away, unfortunately. So, but still have 15 of those accounts.
Grass stays, though.
Yes. Grass always wins.
So 3 years in, you're up to 60 plus accounts. Do you ever think, boy, I kind of wish I was still in that corporate job? Or are you thinking, I wish I would have done this sooner?
I wish I had done it sooner. I'm having a whole lot more fun than I've had in a long time. I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying talking to my clients. I'm enjoying learning something different. And, just plants. I saw a plant the other day, and I found strawberries in some guy's lawn, and he didn't even know he had them. So I said, hey, by the way, he's got little kids. I said, you guys have strawberries growing in this spot. So I took a picture of them, figured out what kind of strawberries they were, because I have the app on my phone that'll tell you which ones they are, and they were Indian strawberries.
Oh, wow.
And not very palatable, but you could eat them, but they're just kind of bland. And I said,
just put sugar on them, right?
Put a lot of sugar on them.
And super organic, like low calorie keto, whatever diet now with the strawberries, right?
And throw it in the easy bake oven because they were really tiny, and then you got a nice little pie.
So if somebody's watching this or listening to this and they're kind of on the fence thinking, I'd like to start my own lawn care business or my own small business for that matter, what advice would you give them?
I would say start inexpensively. And like I said, with the used equipment, that's what I started with. I started a business technically for $600 to $6,000, depending on the way you want to look at it. But it wasn't I've since gone out and had to buy a new mower, which was an $11,000 mower.
But you have a great machine, though.
Yeah.
He has a Bobcat stand-on 61-inch, guys. This thing can mow down anything you very good mower.
But you didn't add that until you had the client base to support that.
Absolutely. I wanted to make sure I had enough, but there were a couple of reasons why I had to add it. But I started out for $6,000, and I would definitely recommend finding used equipment that's in decent shape that has been well taken care of. And that's one of the things I did is I found one of the local vendors here had a lease program where they serviced those mowers once a month. And so I got one that I knew that had been serviced once a month. It was probably 10 years old, but I knew it was serviced. And I knew that was going to get me by for a couple of years. I've since sold that mower because I've been able to move on to some other stuff. But I bought that for $2,000 and used it for a year and a half and sold it for $1,500.
Oh, great.
So I got my money's worth out of it. So
the name of the game.
Moved up from the first trailer, sold that, moved on to a second trailer, and then I just bought a third trailer and sold the second trailer. So I just bought an enclosed trailer, so it's just moving to the spots where I need to.
It just goes to show you, anyone can build a lawn care empire. It doesn't matter like what age you are, Greg. So this is really it's been refreshing though too, and the Lord God is definitely carried you through the past 3 years from just I guess that would almost clown show of the corporate world
to
the
now whole corporate rat race. Yeah,
to now the professionalism and having fun is cutting grass and doing just basic landscaping though too. So thanks for coming on though. So
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, I think this will be a very inspirational episode, and I know going forward we will look back on this episode and refer to it as the Uncle Greg episode.
Hashtag Uncle Greg, guys. We gotta make this go viral. But no, we'll definitely have Greg on for future episodes. But just comment, rate, subscribe, guys. Do whatever you do to share the podcast. It'll grow organically if the Lord wills. That's how we say it. We don't want to be just talking heads or coupon codes, but we'll make money down the road with this podcast one day. But life's not all about money. We just want to get good ideas out there and give hope to people who have grass growing over their head. So
Jeremiah 29:11.
Yep.
For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future.
That's what we hope.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Greg, everybody
thanks.
Have a good week.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.